Okay, so I've been asked many times to make a super heavyweight samurai deck, and I never actually really got around to it because they didn't seem all that appealing to me, so I finally decided to give it a go. Read up on all the cards, see how the deck works, and they are just like really bad. Like the whole archetype, I'm pretty sure it's like a joke archetype just because of how bad it is. There's like the only way to use any of their effects is with the boss monster out on the field. Otherwise, them having a whole bunch of defensive abilities don't really mean anything if they can't actually attack in defense position unless their boss monster's out. And the boss monster is not the easiest guy in the world to get out. I mean, he can be brought out with a giant rat and like brought out with Call the Haunted, but that's like really it. Outside of giant rat, it's really hard to get him out on the field easily. And you need him out on the field in order for your 6 samurais, I mean, your heavy samurais to do anything. And having an entire deck revolve around one boss monster, he's not that hard to get out, but the fact that they just can't really do anything on their own without him out is just like, what's the point of that? It's cool that they can attack in defense position, that's a neat little gimmick, but it's too hard to pull off. They need like some kind of spell card that allows them to attack in defense position, or just allow them to attack in defense position baseline. And half of the heavy samurai monsters are like completely useless. They have... Here, let me read one of them with a really terrible effect just so I can show you. I'm actually going against ones that aren't half bad. Okay, here it is. If this card is sent to the graveyard and you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Then place them on the top of your deck in any order. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of it because you see that first line right there? If this card, if you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, like the rest of them, all the other like heavy samurai monsters that aren't terrible have that same thing where you can't have spell or trap cards in your graveyard in order to use their stupid effects that aren't even that good in the first place. Not having any spell and trap cards in the graveyard is like that's so bad that I'm pretty sure this is a joke archetype just because of how bad it is. The only card that actually gains advantage is Samurai Scales, where you can special summon a heavy samurai from your graveyard when he's normal or special summoned out. And he's also like the only one who can't put himself into defense position. Actually, no, this one can't really either. Yeah, only one who actually gains advantage when he's out on the field is Scales. The rest of them, he can't be destroyed by battle and he has high defense. That's pretty cool, I guess. This one, if he battles, their attack and defense becomes 0, but that's not really that great. You want some kind of destruction. This one, you can increase their attack defense by 1,000, and if in the graveyard you have a chance of destroying all monsters on the field if they activate an effect during the battle phase, which is kind of a pain in the ass. And then this one is if a monster is special summoned in your opponent's turn, you can change a face-up attack position super heavy samurai monster on your side of the field to defense position, and they gain 500 defense. And these are the best heavy samurai monsters they have to offer that aren't just completely terrible with that stupid you can't have spell and trap cards in your graveyard. Okay, so that being said, I think I just like went off on a rant about how bad these cards are. It's because I spent so long trying to make this deck work and it's just so bad. That all being said, this is going to be a quick video. It's only going to be like 2 duels just because I couldn't really get any wins because the deck's so bad. And I don't know, if you know a way to make this deck work better that's not gimmickly, like adding in D2 shield. Here, I think let me type that out, D2, yeah, that doesn't involve like increasing their defense with like Unity or D2 shield, because that's not advantage. That's attack and defense modifiers aren't really that great. Even in decks that revolve around attacking like Gladiator Beast, you don't run any attack and defense modifiers outside of like a Lance. Where is it at? I don't know how to spell forbidden. Yeah, attack and defense modifiers, they just, unless they're really good, even stuff like United We Stand, where you get 800 attack for every monster you control, they can go pretty high. Not really good enough, because what you want are cards that give you advantage, stuff that allows you to swing the game in your way some way. And attack and defense monsters are unreliable because of stuff like Mirror Force, or so many ways to stop a monster from attacking. And you need a monster out on the field in order to use them in the first place, so no D2 crap. So if you know any good ways to make this deck work better, because I could not find anything that doesn't involve gimmicky stuff like Unity or D2 shield, I would love to know. because I'm probably going to try to make a different deck. I'm going to try it out one more time, just because I don't like this deck like at all. I'm going to try out something with their synchro monsters that seem like they have their stuff together. They both have the effect where they can attack while in defense position baseline, so they're not reliant on Superheavy Samurai Big Ben Key. So I'm going to see if I can do something with that, but the bad thing is you need to actually use the terrible Superheavy Samurai monsters in order to bring them out, so I'm going to try to figure out something with that. So I'm going to try out a synchro build next, and if I can't get that to work, then I'm just going to say, don't bother with this archetype, it's so bad.